A lot has been said about the way Walgreens manages diversity. Their distribution center in South Carolina has long been a model for diversity management. Books have been written about it. Jeffrey Moore is a professor of management at Anderson University in South Carolina. He studied the Walgreens model and the Sephora model extensively, and he has the numbers to back up why hiring neurodiverse, autistic, disabled talent increases productivity and improves the workplace. We spoke to Jeffrey Moore earlier this week on Zoom. So this all started with Walgreens, of course, much heralded model, very successful when it comes to embracing neurodiverse talent. It all started with head office, sort of sending a message to managers. What was that message?
So it was really interesting because in the head office, Randy Lewis was a senior vice president of operations, and he's in the C-suite. So he's talking to the CEO, and the big difficulty or the big question on his mind and his wife's mind, they have a child with disabilities that was 16, 17, and they were saying, what are the opportunities for our son to enter the workforce? And there really was nothing. And he shares how his thought was, how can we provide opportunities for these talented or differently abled children to enter the workforce. So he petitioned the CEO of Walgreens to create a new distribution center. Walgreens had an expansion happening, and there was an expansion to come in South Carolina, a new distribution center. And so in that expansion, he requested if they could hire 30% of their workforce. Now, 30% people with disability had never been done in the history of North America.
You talk about these managers being informed of this, that basically you have to hire neurodiverse talent. You can't fire them. Performance has to be the same. These were lucky men and women to take this on.
Well, and I would say it's very frustrated managers because what the typical autocratic perspective is I'm going to make you adapt to me. So as a leader, this is how I want you to perform, and I don't care about you. If you perform great, I'll keep on pushing you. If you don't perform, I'm firing you. So when Walgreens here in Anderson hired managers to run, supervisors to run, they came from other organizations like Walmart, like all these big ones, and where the culture was, if I don't like you and you don't perform, I'm firing you. So here, what they're told is you can't fire. And they're like, what? And so instead of firing, what we have to do is to work with the individual. So this is very much with parents who have children with disabilities understand this concept. I have to be the parent that my child needs me to be. So that's the same thing that they found as a manager. As a manager, I need to be the manager that my employee needs to be. So it completely turns the idea of manager upside down.
There was a transformation among coworkers as well, among team members, and it really despite that difficult transition, it really improved things from a real practical standpoint, didn't it?
Well, you're absolutely right. What happened is the team members were the ones that became the hands and the feet of inclusivity. What they say is, hey, one of the difficulties of people with disability that they have is change. They're not very quick to change. It takes them a long time to get in the groove of a new way of doing things. But once they're keyed in to the way of doing things, they're an absolute superhero in terms of getting things done. Why? Because they can do things repetitively and they do it way faster even than a computer.
This is so interesting to me, right? That because a lot of people ask, well, okay, the managers were told to do this, so they're kind of forced to do this, and the employees have to do that because obviously this was imposed onto them. So how did the coworkers? It must have been a huge inconvenience for the coworkers, but that wasn't the case at all. The production
Correct.
Actually increased,
Correct.
But there were so many barriers to break down to get to that point to prove it, right?
There's a lot of barriers, and a lot of it was fear. Like a lot of them were like, hey, I don't know anybody with a disability. That's weird. How can I adapt? And when you get in front of the people, what was being told to me is that, hey, these people love being here. These people with a disability love their job. And those of us with people with kids with disability know they don't have drama in their life. So they're not talking about Susie Q or this or that or all the junk in the workplace. They're there and they work and they're happy. And so that emotional positive connection created in team members saying, man, look at, Johnny here, he's killing it and he's happy and he's loving life. He's overcoming so many barriers personally to be here. So as an example to me, who maybe is not disabled like Johnny is, it's a testimony of, wow, what do I have to complain about?
You studied Walgreens and you discovered this amazing stuff about Walgreens, but no one believed you, right?
Yeah, they're like, oh, that's just South Carolina. And so we did a secondary, we did Walgreens distribution in Connecticut and compared, and it was the same findings. And so this culture change, same thing. And then they said, oh, well, this is just crazy Walgreens. And Walgreens has one of their things is they help other companies. So they've helped UPS, all these companies that are interested. So they let them come and visit and see the distribution center in Anderson. One of the companies that came was Sephora. And so Sephora came and they just fell in love with it. Productivity numbers, 104%. Productivity numbers in June, 111%. If you look at the non-disabled productivity numbers, 99%. And then in June, they tied to 111%. Here's an amazing statistic. So this is during COVID, just the launch of COVID. So productivity is one, but absenteeism or being on the job, 22% and 25% during COVID. So non-disabled, 20 to 25% of non-disabled said, I ain't coming to work. Employees with disability, 2%.
Wow. Pourquoi est-ce que les autres opérations devraient-elles se soucier de ce qui est passé à Walgreens, de ce qui est passé à Sephora?
C'est très intéressant parce que l'organisation qui veut être plus inclusive doit le faire avec une motivation du cœur. C'est pas une motivation de profit ou d'être meilleur avec financièrement ou autre chose. C'est une histoire, c'est un témoignage de transformation, mais c'est pas tout le monde qui peut rentrer dans ce travail ou qui peut aborder ce challenge d'inclusivité. Juste comme moi et ma femme, si on dit on va adopter un enfant, c'est pas quelque chose qu'on dit rien ne va changer. Non, si on pense à je vais adopter cette personne, tout va changer pour moi en tant que parent. Il faut que je change ma mentalité à s'adapter à développer cet enfant qui vient dans notre maison. Il faut que ma relation avec ma femme change. Il faut que les autres enfants avec cet enfant, ces relations changent. Donc, c'est beaucoup de travail, mais la réalité, c'est un competitive advantage. C'est un avantage compétitif. Pourquoi? Parce que le résultat, c'est que nous, en tant que famille, on est flexible, on est adaptif, on s'aime les uns aux autres. Et on a une autre culture. Donc, c'est la même chose dans ces entreprises inclusives. C'est quelque chose de difficile, mais ça transforme tout le monde qui s'y trouve.
Je pense à ma propre famille, puis je
Oui.
me demande s'il a des leçons. Maybe final question, because you've given me so much good stuff. It's going to be hard to whittle this down.
It's a beautiful story. It's really a beautiful story.
It really is, you know, and it's really nice to sort of to understand the numbers a little more and to have those numbers. But as you said, it takes a change of heart. So as a business expert, where do we go from here, and how likely is it that you know, a lot of companies would be willing to transform their culture, and what do we do to sort of motivate them to do so?
That's a really difficult question. I think one of the best ways to motivate people is for them to see it. So if they see it, then the fear that normally they have about, you know, let's say it's a CEO and he or she owns, you know, a company with 1,000 employees, you know, they're just thinking, oh, I don't want to blow up my company, you know, and so it's going to change everything. Seeing the transformation, the reality, I think is very positive. And so there's a lot of those stories that exist even in your own community. And so the disabilities community can themselves start gathering some of these testimonials, these transformation stories. And I know every community has these. And so that, I would say, would be the first kind of step. And then those who are entrepreneurs, those who are looking for workforce that really is loyal, that has no drama, that is high performing, they have never heard or thought about, you know, this employee pool. And so I think in our business schools or even in our small business areas is to make them aware of these things. What's key is the bridge between the nonprofit disability. So sometimes those nonprofits are focused on internal metrics and not community benefiting, you know, communication about these stories and different things. So parents and others can participate in kind of sharing the information or sharing the good news about this transformation and making it easier for business school students or entrepreneurs to say, hey, oh, this is where I need to go. Here, the disability board over here in our community, you know, they can help me with a job coach. They can come in and kind of look at my business and say, this is where a good fit would be, and kind of do a job crafting. So I think seeing it, touching it for business people is really the first step. And then, you know, consultants can come in. We can help you with figuring out how to build onboarding and how to create that culture. I think that's probably the best thing for business. One idea that is also helpful is to realize that I'm engaging, or I'm starting a new leadership change in myself. And the big change is not on rule-based leadership, so autocratic, but rather on relational. And so instead of trying to control people with rules and regulations and beat them up, I want to be focused on not managing by rules, but having humility, authentic relationship, and then participative decision-making in getting them engaged in those decisions. So it's a very simple three-way: humility, having an authentic relationship with the person, and then solving problems together. That's really the secret. It's not complicated intellectually. It's just difficult to do personally.
it's really interesting because it always sounds like a good idea, right? For a transition from,
yes.
from an autocratic way of doing things to a sort of people-focused relational way of doing things. But it seems that the key to that relational management style to working might just be this nucleus of neurodivergent talent that doesn't engage in sort of laziness, according to the numbers,
Right.
slacking
Laziness
off,
or drama. There's no drama in the workplace. No.
There's this nucleus of productivity that sort of influences everybody around them.
Correct.
And sort of perhaps do you think that plays a role in weeding out any negative aspect that can be argued about relational management?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a catalyst to change, and so what it does is it's not business as usual anymore. This different person is in your face. It's not some idea that you see on the news or, a video or this or that. It is somebody right there, and that pushes you, it catalyzes you to make a real decision. And you realize your biases, that was nice when I didn't see the person, but now when I have a person right in front of me. And so I think this inclusive really helps to break down these barriers, which also helps with the racial barriers, with the gender barriers, all these barriers. Why? Because it forces you to not be critical first. It shows you your pride or your fear. So it's very telling. And it just puts a lot of things back on you to think through. Just like if, tomorrow we got news from the doctor that we have cancer, that if that were a reality, it would change everything in you. So this is the same way. It's in your face, and the organization, by creating a positive environment where that can happen, it's the transformation that happens from top down, and that's really the secret. So business actually doesn't have to be this cutthroat, destructive, take everything, leave no survivors. It's all for me. Businesses can become a redemptive social enterprise that is wanting to develop people for the good of the people. The business is coming. It's part of the equation, but it's not the driver. And so actually what I'm excited about seeing is that business is not evil or it's not good. It's a tool that can be used in a very redemptive way in our community to break down the racial, the other barriers that exist. So for me, this is just a wonderful example of how that was done here. People that I talked to in the distribution center said, for example, before working with somebody with disability, when in the city, when I saw somebody with a disability, I just walked by and didn't say anything. Now I go over and say hello because I know they're people just like me, and I have a different interaction. It's made me a better person with my kids. It's made me a better person with my spouse because of that experience. So that's really, to me as a management professor, that business can be redemptive is a wonderful.
All right. Thanks so much for talking to us about all this today. And thanks for your work. It's just been it's tremendous. Thanks a lot, gentlemen.
You're welcome.